Talk about elegance. Listen, I'm gonna feel like a real jerk because we're talking about titans, okay? We're talking about amazing singers. I have to be critical over things I literally can't do. Because if we're gonna be honest about the verses, if we're gonna be talking head to head. Now, it's worth mentioning that this recording that we just heard from Morissette, Amon, a little flat on the last note. It is not grotesquely flat. I'll show you again. Take a little listen here. Goes under a smidge. This is why I feel like a jerk. This is why I feel like, you know, bad. Being that aside, it is worth noting that not only is my face incredibly blue, the audio quality of this recording is dog. It's terrible. Anything that might be perceived as like slightly under on bad audio, I swear to you, is actually really not that flat live. Round one though, Mariah 1, Amon 0. Let's move on. Also worth mentioning that C Mariah hit, that's a C7. That's an octave above. But since we are the vocal nerd channel, we do have to get a little bit more into detail than simply how high the note was. Let's talk about the quality, the control. He's got, the control dynamics, vibrato. There's an attempt at vibrato, it's not quite there. I think the reason it's not quite there for Morissette Amon is because as she's going for that tilt, to get that vibrato, she knows the pitch is being dragged under, so she's not tilting and she's trying to adjust, and then she's trying to tilt and trying to make it work, and it's not working. Again, we're being incredibly hypercritical, and it's stupid. This whole premise of this video is kind of stupid, but here we are. Also worth mentioning, and just in case anyone gets twisted, I do think they're better than me. So, you know, there's that. I'm checking out the audio files here because when we talk about dynamic control, we have to consider the recording quality on this recording from Morissette Amon it's highly, highly, highly compressed. I still think the dynamic control, even accounting for that, I think the dynamic control is better on Mariah's. If we take a listen at the tail end when she tapers off, she just disappears into almost nothingness. Whereas with Amon, so again, you got to kind of maybe not get too tough on Amon here because the recording quality is terrible. But I still maintain I think Mariah's diminuendo is superior in this case. Hold on a second. Chills, y'all. These are some notes. Her offsets and onsets are intentionally and artistically like decided upon. These aren't just whistle notes. This is the whole phrasing is actually bananas. Listen to how careful she is about hitting the D's on the do's, rather. You can almost not hear them, and that's very intentional. I even swear she's actually just doing la 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 la, right? Where my mouse is, you might have a hard time seeing this, but here's my mouse. These are the vocal folds, okay? And these are the false folds. When you do duh, feel that for a second, go duh, you're gonna feel a tightening of your throat. What that tightening is that is the contraction of the false folds. That is incredibly significant. When the false folds contract, they are, as you can see here, very much, not quite directly attached, but they are very much larger and of more consequence. The second you contract, second that happens, all of these vocal folds, they stiffen, they're not just so. So she has to do these consonants in such a way as to not mess with her false folds. Oh, what a wonderful tone. Her voice just sounds pretty. It's really attractive. She's also doing here what's called an aspirate abrupt. This is nuts. You can tell it's an aspirate abrupt because you can see this tail here. This is just the white noise, and then the folds come together. It is in the exhale that the folds come together. Let's do a quick demonstration here. Whoop. Take these two things. I take these two things and then I just... I'm not moving them with my fingers. Now, they're coming together. And they're coming together. This is what's called the Bernoulli effect. As I exhale air through in between those cards, because nature abhors a vacuum, the air pressure on the outside of the cards is larger than that of the inside, and they come together. So we have to use breath to get our folds to come together. And not just do we have to have our folds come together, we have to have them come together for whistle in a specific way where they, what's the word? Whistle. Maybe you could say that maybe she's using the aspirate gradual, or the aspirate abrupt, where she's and trying to get her folds right locked into place because it's easy, but you'd be wrong. This is another view of the vocal folds right here. If I take out the larynx, this is going to be our larynx, our thyroid cartilage. We're going to remove that. These are the vocal folds, okay? Now, as you can see, they're not totally just like two-dimensional, right? There's a third dimension. So when they come together like just at the tail ends, like we saw with those cards, okay? So we have to do what a whistle would do. Got to be just a tiny little hole here, technically here. There cannot be too much vocal closure here, otherwise we don't get a whistle sound. It has to be open enough, and just right here, this little itty-bitty opening right at the back of the folds there. All this is to say that the position of a whistle is incredibly precise. So to go, huh, where the vocal folds come together right on the money, oh boy, that's quite challenging. And on top of that, check this out. She's adding vibrato. Both of them did that. Well, I think in this video, Amon does it, but let's talk about vibrato for a second. So how does vibrato work? Vibrato works because this thyroid cartilage will tilt this way. This way. Yeah, there we go. I'm on the right side of things. These are the cricothyroids. They are responsible for that tilt. Well, if they're attached to the thyroid cartilage, and they are, what happens? Okay, so if these vocal folds like this stretch, what happens to the opening, this precise opening that we were talking so much about? Okay, so if I have this opening here where there's got to be some opening, right? But I got to have this little hole, right? It can't be closed. They can't have vocal closure because you don't have a whistle then. It has to be slightly open. Okay, we worked really hard to get to this position. Now we're going to mess it up by stretching it. See how really quick this little circle bit top here that I have where my fist is right here, we need that or it's not pitched, not pitched whistle-wise. Watch what happens when I stretch. I'm going to use my fingers to mimic the arytenoids. Here we go. Watch, see that? See that? It goes from like this little circle bit, and then the circle bit goes and opens up. So to have vibrato on a whistle is already demanding. Then she does something, and it's additionally cool. She's changing pitch, which is not quite the usual thing that you have to do in your whistle. And then adding a vibrato. Very quickly. She is also adding a percussive element by doing what on her offset is just called a glottal. Notice how that pitch stops immediately. Basically, she's just having her folds come together like, It's like holding your breath. Sustain out, she's doing it very quickly. And it sounds good. I mean, come on, that's kind of ridiculous. But Amon is no slouch. Let's keep going. I didn't anticipate the dude cursing in the studio. My bad, guys. That is a much better showing, I think, from Amon. We don't have the same level of musicianship that we saw from Mariah, but we do see some pretty excellent stuff. Whoop, there we go. It sounds really pretty this time. I think it does have a bit more power than Mariah, and that's going to be an advantage. This is, again, way too blue. That's going to be an advantage that Amon has versus Mariah because of the nodules. It's just going to be more power for Amon. Let's start with Amon. We gave a lot to Mariah. Let's start with Amon in this next round. I am going to give the last round to Mariah just on the basis that I think the musicianship, using that level of technique and execution for musical phrasing, I think that was done better than Amon. Excellently done. Oh my goodness, Glob. And the audio is terrible on that. It still sounds amazing. Oh boy. I'm kind of gonna go with Amon in this one. I think the tone quality in this is just better for Amon. You know, obviously it's these are, we're being so nitpicky. And why did I choose which round goes with which? You know what I mean? The whole idea of this video, kind of silly. At the same time, yeah, we love whistles and we love these singers. So it's just a good excuse to celebrate awesomeness and to talk about the voice. It is a little easier to have that really good tone when you're not moving around. And Amon is not moving around as much. Strictly speaking, whistle tone and the quality of the note, I'm going to give that one to Amon. Oh, he has such a beautiful voice. That is such a pretty, pretty sound. The note going into that was a little flat. See how that drags just a little bit? I almost want to say it's the video artifact. Not to be an apologist, but the video and the audio sounds really weird. You hear that? So I'm gonna just forgive this because I don't actually know if it's her. Also, come on. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Mariah comes back. Oh, you gave Amon a point. So it's like that. Okay. I'm just gonna hold my beer. Do you know who I am? Damn. Really pretty tone. Really nice musicianship. This might. Oh man, this is hard. Yeah, that might be the video. Oh, boy. Oh, my God. That's phenomenal. Oh, what? All right, well, we got to go round by round. Oh, man, I don't know. This sounds so pretty. This, to me, is going to come down to preference. I'm giving them both a point. You can argue about it in the comments. I mean, at a certain point, it's just amazing. Like, when something is amazing, it's amazing. I love how, like, Amon is, like, smiling and it's soulful. And Mariah's just, as someone was saying in the chat, just absolutely slaying us. And she's just smiling. She's like, you know what? That's right. This one's nuts. Like, just okay. Oh, what the? Hold on, wait, what? You can't do that. You can't. This is the Matrix. So what's blowing my mind here, remember we talked about onsets. Listen to these. Listen to the start of each note. The crack, that onset, that huh, that's an aspirate abrupt. Now you can appreciate with this how much more difficult it is when Mariah doesn't make it look so damn easy. Now, this is insane. And this is just completely nuts. Like, come on. This example is not going to go 1 for 1. I'm actually going to go to the other example that we used before. I can't even do that. So the reason why what Amon is doing is actually harder in terms of getting that onset to be correct, why it's really hard to evaluate 1 for 1, because Mariah is starting on that whistle, whereas Amon is coming off of a belt. That is like apples and oranges. That's crazy hard, crazy difference. Here's whistle. Like we talked about, there's a little bit of this going on. Here we go. There's a little bit of this going on, right? What's a belt? A belt is this. Whereas the thyroid cartilage stretches, when we belt, we actually make them bunch together. So a better image would be like it goes from this to this. It gets real fat when you belt. So what she's doing is she's belting. She's whatever. That's not a good belt. Will I hear you sing once more? Right? From fat to tilted like that. So she goes from that fat belty sound and flips into a whistle. That's insane. That's really hard to do. That's why that crack you hear is there. That crack is there because it has to. The folds have to flip open. So she lets go of the mechanic that would be responsible for belting, which is. More recent theory is that the thyroid cartilage goes backwards. So you would get the opposite where you get them to kind of bunch up like that. So she's bringing that thyroid cartilage backwards to get the belt, and then she lets go of it immediately. There are some other theories. I haven't caught up with this in a bit. The theory was that this goes backwards, and yeah. Anyway, there's a couple of ideas, but this was the thyroid cartilage going backward is more of what we know about belting for right now. What an amazing world that we live in, that we get to listen to this stuff. It's incredible. Right, moving on. Oh, I have to score them. Right. I don't even know how I would do it. In the one that we're listening to here, I like this aesthetically more, but it's different. Like, come on. If we're talking purely whistles, if we're rating whistles purely, I think the quality of the whistle that Mariah has in that clip is higher. At the same time, with Amon, singing around the whistle makes it exponentially harder, so you got to give props to that. This one's tough. I'm going to call this one a draw. It's what they call in MMA or boxing a no contest, because it's it's a very different thing. But I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think about that one. What is a songbird? And very different musical context. Ooh, okay. So in terms of musical context, on one hand you have the doo-da-boo-da-boo-da-boo, almost like a blues kind of thing going on. And then with the Amon one, it's like it's hype. Because the musical aesthetic that she's going for is hype, that the sound ends up kind of pulling back a little bit. Whereas with Mariah's dynamic control on the previous clip, it's better. This one, I think, is kind of no contest. I think the control here just goes to Mariah full stop. I feel like a jerk again. Like these are amazing singers, and as far as like throwing Up against like whistle battles, like Mariah. Like, come on. These are not shots against Amon. These are, hey, Mariah's pretty, ridiculous. I will say though, Morissette Amon's voice is beautiful. What a stunning sound. Okay, mic technique and epilepsy. Ooh. See, that is nice and epic. Versus what she did before. That's really nice and elegant. Yeah. But this Mariah one right here. Mic technique coming in like that. Smart. It's a lot more gentle. This is really, really hard. I might give this one to Amon, I'm not gonna lie. Now, it is just one held note, but we're talking about whistles. If the note is a held whistle note. Oh, as good as that is, I think I'm going to give this one to Amon. Again, this is just splitting hairs. I think the sustained quality of the higher one on Mariah's is just not as pristine, which is so incredibly nitpicky, it's ridiculous. That's the only way we're going to really be able to decide when we're talking about two great singers, is we have to kind of like, put them against each other and almost not make stuff up, but really get into the nitty-gritty splitting of hairs. 5-4.